The chamber was built to intimidate. Ambassador David Kane understood this the moment the transport pod delivered him through the crystalline walls of the Nexus, the massive station that served as the heart of galactic governance. The council chamber itself defied human comprehension of scale. It stretched upward for what seemed like miles. A cylindrical arena where thousands of alien representatives observed from ascending tiers of seats that spiraled toward a ceiling lost in artificial clouds. Kane stood on a circular platform at the very bottom, alone and exposed. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing his image magnified 100 times so every creature in this vast space could examine the human who had dared request an emergency session. The air hummed with translation matrices working overtime, converting thousands of languages into coherent meaning. He had exactly 10 minutes to prevent a war dot above him. On the highest visible tier, the Prime Arbiter spoke. The creature was a Zendari, its body a flowing mass of liquid light contained within a geometric force field. Its voice emerged from everywhere at once, synthesized into English for Kane's benefit, but broadcast in every language. Simultaneously, the human representative will explain why the Galactic Council should not authorize immediate annexation of the Sol system. You have been charged with illegal occupation of restricted space, refusal to submit to quarantine protocols, and threatening behavior towards survey vessels. How do you answer these charges? Kane took a breath. Back on Earth, 2 billion people were watching this transmission. General Victoria Cross had briefed him for 6 weeks straight. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Honored Arbiter, esteemed members of the Council, Kane began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I answer these charges with a question. When did the Council claim ownership of the Sol system? A ripple of confusion passed through the chamber. The Arbiter's light pulsed in patterns that Kane's briefing materials had identified as surprise. The Sol system lies within the territorial boundaries established by the founding treaty of the Council, 41,000 years ago. All systems within the defined zone are subject to Council jurisdiction. I see, Kane said. And when was humanity consulted about this treaty? Consultation is unnecessary. Species that achieve interstellar capability are automatically subject to Council law. This is known throughout the galaxy. Kane nodded slowly. Known to species that exist within your sphere of influence. But what about species that develop outside of it? What about civilizations that reach the stars without any contact with the Council? Impossible, declared a voice from one of the lower tiers. Kane identified the speaker as a Dravix, a reptilian species known for military aggression. All emerging species are detected and cataloged by our monitoring networks. You humans appeared on our sensors only 3 years ago, already possessing faster-than-light travel. You must have stolen the technology from a Council member. We invented it ourselves, Kane replied calmly, and we had it for considerably longer than 3 years. We simply chose not to use it in ways that would attract attention. The chamber erupted. Thousands of aliens began vocalizing simultaneously, creating a wall of sound that the translation matrices struggled to parse. The Arbiter's light flashed brilliant white, and silence returned. You claim to have developed FTL technology independently? That is highly improbable. The mathematical principles required are different for every species, Kane interrupted. Yes, we know. We have examined 6 distinct approaches to faster-than-light travel in the wreckage of the survey ships that entered our space without permission. All different, all functional, none matching our own methodology. More shocked murmurs. The Arbiter leaned forward, and Kane felt the weight of its attention like a physical pressure. You admit to destroying Council survey vessels? I said wreckage. I did not say destroyed. Kane manipulated the control interface that materialized in front of him. A holographic display blossomed above the chamber floor, showing a Council survey ship. It hung motionless in space, its hull intact, but its systems clearly inactive. This vessel entered the boundary we marked as Terran space 14 months ago. We disabled it, studied its technology, and placed it in secure storage. The crew is unharmed and in stasis. You had no right. We had every right, Kane said, his voice hardening. When an unknown vessel enters your territory without permission, refuses to respond to hail attempts, and begins active scanning of your defensive installations, that is called an invasion. We responded with restraint. The Dravix representative rose to its full height, easily 3 meters tall. Restraint? You captured a Council vessel. Do you understand what you have done? We could obliterate your entire world for such an offense. Kane met the alien's eyes without flinching. You could try. The chamber went absolutely silent. The Arbiter's light dimmed to a soft amber. Human Kane, we strongly advise you to reconsider your tone. The Council has existed for 41,000 years. We have guided 10,000 species to peaceful integration into galactic society. We have the military capacity to enforce compliance with any species that chooses defiance. Your world is one planet with a population of 8 billion. We represent 500 civilizations, controlling over 2 million inhabited worlds. Do you truly wish to threaten us? I make no threats, Kane said. I simply state facts. You have sent 17 vessels into Terran space over the past 18 months. All 17 are currently in our possession. Their crews are safe. But the ships themselves have been completely neutralized. Your most advanced military technology was unable to prevent their capture. Your shields failed. Your weapons did not fire. Your faster-than-light drives were disabled before they could activate. All of this happened in less than 5 seconds per vessel. He paused, letting that information settle. Now you threaten to send a military fleet to enforce your will on Earth. I am here to tell you, as clearly as possible, that such a fleet would meet the same fate. And at some point, the Council would need to explain to its member species how an entire invasion force vanished into Terran space without a trace. A new voice entered the conversation. It came from the mid-level tiers, translated into a smooth contralto. Kane identified the speaker as an ambassador from the Telkari, one of the founding species of the Council. The Telkari resembled a tree made of brass and glass, its crystalline leaves tinkling as it moved. If what you claim is true, you have technology far beyond anything that should be possible for a species that only recently achieved spaceflight. Where did this technology come from? Kane smiled. We invented it. Just like we invented our FTL drive, our quantum communication systems, and our defensive grid. Humanity has been preparing for contact with other species for a very long time, Ambassador. We simply chose to prepare quietly. Lies, the Dravix spat. No species developed such advanced systems without guidance. You were visited by another civilization. You stole technology from whom? Kane challenged. You claim your monitoring networks detect all emerging species. You claim no one can develop FTL without being noticed. Yet here we are, with technology you cannot explain, telling you we did exactly what you say is impossible. Perhaps the problem is not that we are lying. Perhaps the problem is that your assumptions about technological development are wrong. The Arbiter pulsed through several colors. You speak of things that challenge 40,000 years of accumulated knowledge. You must understand how difficult this is to accept. I understand perfectly, Kane said. You have built a galactic order based on the assumption that you are the most advanced, most powerful, most knowledgeable civilizations in existence. You have created laws and systems that reinforce this hierarchy. And now you encounter a species that does not fit your models, that refuses to submit to your authority, and that has demonstrated capabilities you cannot match. This terrifies you. We are not terrified of primitives, the Dravix growled. Then prove it, Kane said quietly. Negotiate with us as equals. Establish diplomatic relations based on mutual respect rather than enforced submission. Allow humanity to maintain sovereignty over our space while participating in galactic commerce and culture on our own terms. Or send your fleet and discover what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. The Telkari ambassador's leaves chimed softly. And if we choose negotiation, what guarantees can you offer? How do we know Earth will not use its technology to threaten other species? The same guarantee you offer your own members, Kane replied. We will agree to non-aggression treaties, trade agreements, and diplomatic protocols. We will share some technology, though not our defensive systems. We will participate in the galactic community. But we will do so as a sovereign species, not as subjects. That is non-negotiable. The Prime Arbiter dimmed to a deep red. This council must deliberate. You will wait. The thousands of alien representatives began filing out through portals that opened in the chamber walls. Kane watched them go, his heart pounding. Through his neural link, encrypted messages flowed from Earth. General Cross sent a simple query. Status? Kane responded with a thought command. Unknown. They are scared, but also angry. 50-50 chance they choose war, and we prepare for war. Agreed. The last of the council members vanished, leaving Kane alone in the massive chamber. He looked up at the empty tiers, at the holographic displays, still showing the disabled council ships, at the ceiling lost in artificial clouds. Somewhere beyond those walls, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were deciding humanity's fate. Kane thought about the defenses surrounding Earth, the weapon systems that had made humanity's stand possible, the technology that had bought them this chance, and the secrets that still remained hidden, waiting to be revealed if the Council chose violence. 40-1000 years of galactic dominance versus 200,000 years of human evolution. Advanced alien technology versus human ingenuity and desperation. 1,000 civilizations versus one world that refused to kneel dot in 30 minutes. Kane would have his answer. He settled onto the platform to wait, his mind already planning for both possibilities. Victory or annihilation. Partnership or war. One way or another, the galaxy was about to learn what humans were truly capable of. The council members returned exactly 29 minutes later. Kane watched as the dimensional portals reopened and thousands of alien representatives filed back into their designated positions. The atmosphere had changed. He could feel it in the way they moved, in the hushed tones of conversation that the translation matrices picked up. Something had shifted during their deliberation. The Prime Arbiter materialized on its platform, its liquid light body now cycling through colors Kane had not seen before. Deep purples mixed with silver, patterns that his briefing materials had not covered. He made a mental note to pay attention to the nuances. Every detail mattered in diplomacy. Ambassador Kane, the Arbiter began, its synthesized voice carrying a weight that had not been present before. The Council has reviewed your claims and the evidence you provided. We have also conducted our own analysis of the situation. We wish to present you with several questions before rendering our decision. I am prepared to answer, Kane said. First question. You claim to have captured 17 Council vessels without triggering any of their emergency protocols. Our technical specialists find this extremely difficult to believe. Each ship is equipped with quantum-linked beacons that should have activated automatically upon any hostile action. Can you explain how you circumvented these systems? Kane had anticipated this question. The beacons did activate. We detected the quantum signals and traced them back to your monitoring stations. Then we intercepted the signals and replaced them with synthesized data indicating normal operations. Your monitoring stations received exactly what they expected to receive. The deception was complete. A Dravix military commander stood abruptly. That is technologically impossible. Quantum encryption cannot be broken. The signals cannot be intercepted. Quantum encryption, based on your mathematical models, cannot be broken using your methodology, Kane corrected. We use different mathematics, different physics, different fundamental assumptions about how reality operates at the quantum level. What is impossible for you is routine for us. The Telkari ambassador's leaves chimed softly. You speak of alternative physics as if such things were trivial. The fundamental laws of the universe are constant. They do not change based on who is observing them. The laws are constant, Kane agreed. But the mathematics we use to describe those laws are human constructs. Different ways of modeling the same underlying reality. Your species developed one set of mathematical tools. We developed another. Both describe the same universe, but they lead to different technological applications. The prime arbiter pulsed thoughtfully. Can you provide an example? Kane considered carefully. He had clearance to reveal certain information, but not everything. Your faster-than-light drives work by manipulating space-time through gravitational distortion. You create a bubble of warped space and surf along the gradient. Very effective. Very energy-intensive. Our FTL drives work by temporarily decoupling a vessel from the normal flow of space-time entirely. Different approach. Similar result. Yours is faster over long distances. Ours is more efficient over short distances and allows for precision that your drives cannot match. And your defensive systems? Asked a voice from the upper tiers. Kane identified it as coming from a Morphani representative, a species known for their expertise in defensive technology. I am not authorized to discuss specific mechanisms, Kane said, but I can tell you the philosophical principle. Your shields work by deflecting or absorbing incoming attacks. They are reactive. Our defensive grid is proactive. It identifies threats and neutralizes them before they can act. By the time your ship's weapon systems recognized our vessels as targets, those weapon systems no longer existed in any functional sense. The chamber erupted again. Kane waited for the noise to die down. The Morphani representative pressed forward. You are describing technology that should require computational power beyond anything achievable with physical hardware. The processing required to identify and neutralize threats faster than light-speed weapons would require quantum consciousness processors, Kane finished. Yes, we have those. Silence fell like a hammer. The prime arbiter's light flickered erratically. You have achieved artificial consciousness? Quantum-based synthetic minds? No, Kane said carefully. We have achieved the opposite. We have learned how to enhance biological consciousness with quantum computing architecture. Our defensive grid is not run by machines. It is run by human minds augmented with quantum processing capabilities. The reaction time is not limited by hardware. It is limited only by thought itself. A new voice entered the discussion. It came from the highest tier, from a section Kane had assumed was empty. The voice was ancient, carrying harmonics that the translation matrix struggled to parse. Kane looked up and saw a creature he had never encountered in any briefing material. It resembled a constellation of stars given physical form, each point of light connected by threads of pure energy. I am Elder Vorn, the creature said. I have observed galactic civilization for 9,000 years. I have witnessed the rise and fall of hundreds of species. Never have I encountered a civilization that successfully integrated consciousness with quantum mechanics at the level you describe. Such integration usually results in madness, death, or transcendence beyond physical form. How have humans avoided these outcomes? Kane took a moment before answering. This was the critical question. the one that would determine whether the Council saw humanity as a threat or as something else entirely. We avoided those outcomes by accepting them, he said quietly. Elder Vorn, you are correct that quantum consciousness integration often leads to madness. We lost 16,000 volunteers in the early experiments. They are honored as heroes on Earth. Their sacrifice taught us the limits of what the human mind can endure. We learned to build safety systems, to create fail-safes, to train our people to handle the mental strain. And yes, some of our operators do transcend. We lose about 3% of our augmented personnel each year to what we call the ascension event. They simply cease to exist in physical space. We do not know where they go. The chamber had gone completely silent. Every eye, sensor cluster, and detection organ was focused on Kane. But the ones who remain, he continued, are capable of processing information and making decisions at speeds that would seem godlike to unaugmented humans. They are still human, still capable of emotion, creativity, error. But they experience time differently. For them, the seconds it took to disable your ships felt like hours. They had time to analyze every system, every weapon, every potential threat. And they had time to make the choice to neutralize rather than destroy. That choice is important. It defines who we are. Elder Vorn's constellation body shifted, stars rearranging into new patterns. You could have destroyed the ships. You could have killed the crews. But you chose mercy. We chose pragmatism, Kane corrected. We are not monsters. We are not conquerors. We simply refuse to be conquered. There is a difference. We want to join the galactic community, Elder Vorn, but we will only do so as equals. The Prime Arbiter spoke again, its voice subdued. The Council has heard your explanations. We have additional concerns. If humanity possesses such advanced technology, why did you wait so long to reveal yourselves? Why hide for years while we expanded our survey operations into your region of space? Kane smiled. Because we were studying you. We needed to understand how the galactic order functions, what the Council values, what your military capabilities are, and how you respond to resistance. We needed intelligence before we could make informed decisions. And we got it. You have been spying on us, the Dravix commander accused. We have been observing, Kane said. There is a difference. We did not infiltrate your societies or steal state secrets. We simply watched, listened, and learned, just as you have been doing to Earth for the past 3 years. Your surveillance drones have been monitoring our communications, studying our culture, analyzing our technological level. We detected them within hours of their arrival. We allowed them to continue because the information flow was beneficial to both sides. The Telkari ambassador leaned forward. If you detected our surveillance, why did you not destroy those assets as well? Because surveillance is not an act of war, Kane replied. It is an act of curiosity. We understand curiosity. We share it. If you had simply watched and waited, we would have eventually made contact on our own terms. But you did not wait. You sent ships into our territory. You issued demands. You threatened consequences. At that point, we had to respond. The Prime Arbiter's light cycled through several colors before settling on a pale blue. Ambassador Kane, the Council faces an unprecedented situation. In 41,000 years of recorded galactic history, we have never encountered a species like humanity. Your technological sophistication, combined with your relatively recent emergence, challenges many of our fundamental assumptions about civilizational development. Some members of this council see you as a threat that must be neutralized. Others see you as a potential asset. A few see you as something else entirely. And what do you see, Prime Arbiter? Kane asked. I see a species that has chosen a dangerous path. Quantum consciousness integration, proactive defensive systems, alternative physics models. These are technologies that powerful civilizations abandoned thousands of years ago because they were deemed too risky. The potential for catastrophic failure was considered too high. Yet you have embraced these risks and somehow succeeded. That speaks to either remarkable brilliance or remarkable foolishness. I have not yet decided which. Kane nodded. Perhaps it is both. Humans have a saying, fortune favors the bold. We have been bold, sometimes recklessly so. But we are still here, still surviving, still pushing the boundaries of what is possible. That is what we do. That is what defines us. Elder Vorn spoke again, the ancient voice carrying across the chamber. There is a third option the Council must consider. Ambassador Kane, what if we choose neither war nor negotiation? What if we simply declare the Sol system a restricted zone and forbid all member species from entering Terran space? You would have your sovereignty by default. No treaty required. That would be acceptable in the short term, Kane said carefully. But it creates long-term problems. Isolation breeds suspicion. Suspicion breeds fear. Fear breeds conflict. Eventually, some species would violate the restriction, either accidentally or deliberately. And then we would be back where we started, except with even less trust than we have now. No, Eldervorn, isolation is not a solution. It is merely a delay. The Dravik's commander stood again. Then what do you suggest, human? You reject submission. You reject isolation. What option does that leave the Council? Kane looked directly at the Draviks, his voice calm and measured. I suggest the Council accept reality. Humanity exists. We have technology you do not understand. We have capabilities you cannot match in certain specific areas. We are not going away. We are not submitting. So you have a simple choice. Work with us or fight us. One path leads to mutual benefit. The other leads to mutual destruction. You truly believe you could fight the entire Council? The Draviks asked incredulously. I truly believe nobody would win such a war, Kane replied. Yes, you have vastly superior numbers. Yes, you have experience we lack. But we have defensive capabilities that would make any invasion of Terran space catastrophically expensive. How many ships are you willing to lose? How many crews? How many resources? And for what? To punish a species for refusing to kneel? Is that worth destroying the Council's military capacity and leaving yourselves vulnerable to external threats? The Draviks sat down slowly, and Kane knew he had struck a nerve. The Prime Arbiter pulsed brighter. You have given us much to consider, Ambassador Kane. This Council will deliberate further. You will be escorted to quarters where you can rest. We will summon you when we have reached a final decision. How long will that take? Kane asked. As long as necessary. Decisions that will shape the future of galactic civilization cannot be rushed. Kane was escorted to a suite of rooms designed for visiting dignitaries. The space was impressive, with walls that shifted to display whatever environment the occupant desired. He selected a view of Earth from orbit, the blue marble hanging in black space, and sat down to think through his neural link. Reports flowed from the military command. General Cross had mobilized the full defensive grid. Every augmented operator was at their station. The orbital platforms were charged and ready. Earth was as prepared as it could be for whatever came next. He composed a message to the general. Council is still deliberating. Outcome uncertain. My assessment is 40% chance of negotiated settlement, 30% chance of restricted zone declaration, 30% chance of military action. Recommend maintaining full alert status. Cross responded within seconds. Acknowledged. We are ready for anything. How are you holding up? Kane smiled at the concern in her words. I am functioning within normal parameters. The augmentation is stable. No signs of stress degradation. That was not what I asked, David. He paused, considering. I am tired, Victoria. This is harder than I expected. Not the negotiation itself, but the weight of it. Knowing that 8 billion lives depend on what happens in that chamber. You were chosen for this because you can handle the weight. Trust yourself. I do. But I also know the odds. We are one world facing 1,000. Even with our advantages, the mathematics are not encouraging. Since when do humans care about mathematics? Cross replied, We are the species that went to the moon with computers less powerful than a modern toaster. We are the species that split the atom before we fully understood what atoms were. We do not let probability dictate our actions. We make the impossible happen through sheer stubbornness. That is our true superpower, David, not the quantum consciousness or the defensive grid. Our refusal to accept limitations. Kane felt something loosen in his chest. You should have been the ambassador. I lack your diplomatic subtlety. I would have started a war in the first 5 minutes. Fair point. The conversation ended, and Kane was left alone with his thoughts. He reviewed everything that had been said in the council chamber, looking for clues about which way the decision might go. The Prime Arbiter had been cautious, but not hostile. Elder Vorn had been curious rather than threatened. The Telkari ambassador had asked thoughtful questions. Even the Dravix commander, despite the bluster, had backed down when confronted with practical military realities. But there were hundreds of other representatives who had remained silent. What were they thinking? How would they vote when the time came? Kane walked to the window and stared at the simulated Earth. He thought about the people down there, going about their lives, most of them unaware that their entire future hung in the balance. They trusted their government, their military, their diplomatic corps to protect them. They trusted him. He would not let them down. A chime sounded. The suite's communication panel lit up with an incoming request. Kane activated it and saw the image of the Telkari ambassador. Ambassador Kane, I hope I am not disturbing your rest. I would like to speak with you privately, if you are willing. This was unusual. Private communications between representatives during council deliberations were not technically forbidden, but they were discouraged. The fact that the Telkari was reaching out suggested something important. I am willing, Kane said. Please come in. The door opened, and the Telkari entered. Up close, the being was even more impressive. Its brass and glass structure stood nearly 2 meters tall, with crystalline leaves that caught and refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something that looked so rigid. Thank you for seeing me, the Telkari said, its voice like wind chimes. I am Ambassador Kelleran. I serve as one of the senior members of the council, representing the interests of the founding species. It is an honor, Kane said, gesturing to a seat. The furniture reconfigured itself automatically to accommodate the Telkari's unique physiology. Kelleran settled into position, leaves rustling softly. I will be direct. Ambassador Kane, the council is divided on how to handle the situation with Earth. Roughly 1/3 favor immediate military action. 1/3 favor establishing a restricted zone and avoiding the problem entirely. 1/3 favor negotiation and potential integration into the galactic community. And which third do you belong to? Kane asked. I belong to a 4th group, Kelleran said. A very small group that sees humanity as potentially the most important species to enter the galactic stage in 10,000 years. Kane kept his expression neutral, but his mind raced. Please explain. The Telkari's leaves shifted, creating patterns of light on the walls. Ambassador Kane, the Galactic Council has existed for 41,000 years. In that time, it has grown from 17 founding species to over 500 member civilizations. It has maintained peace across millions of worlds. It has facilitated trade, diploma, scientific advancement, and cultural exchange on a scale that most emerging species cannot comprehend. By any measure, it has been a tremendous success. But, Kane prompted. But it has also become stagnant, Kelleran said quietly. The Council's technological development has plateaued. We have not made significant advances in physics, engineering, or mathematics in over 3,000 years. We have reached a point where we are simply refining existing knowledge rather than discovering new frontiers. And worse, we have become complacent. We assume we know everything worth knowing. We assume our way of doing things is the only way. We have stopped questioning our assumptions. Kane began to see where this was going. And humanity challenges those assumptions. Exactly, Kelleran said, leaves chiming with what might have been excitement. Your quantum consciousness integration, your alternative physics models, your proactive defensive systems, these represent genuinely new ideas. Not refinements of existing technology, but completely novel approaches to problems we thought we had already solved. That is extraordinarily rare. That is valuable beyond measure. So you see us as a resource to be exploited, Kane said carefully. No, Kelleran replied firmly. I see you as potential partners in a new era of discovery. But only if we can overcome the fear that currently dominates Council thinking. Most species in the Council are afraid of what they do not understand. They see humanity's rapid advancement as threatening. They worry that if one species can develop such technology so quickly, what does that say about the Council's supposed superiority? It challenges the entire hierarchy we have built. Kane nodded slowly. And what do you propose? I propose that we make a deal, you and I, not officially. Not yet, but an understanding between representatives who both want to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. I am listening. Kelleran leaned forward, leaves tinkling softly. The Council will likely vote within the next 12 hours. Based on my estimates, the vote will be close. Very close. It may come down to a handful of representatives. I can influence some of those votes, but I need something from you in return. What do you need? Proof, Kelleran said simply. Real, undeniable proof that humanity can contribute something of value to the galactic community. Not just defensive technology, which only makes other species more afraid. Something that benefits everyone. Something that demonstrates you want to be partners, not conquerors. Kane thought quickly. What kind of proof are you looking for? Do you have any technological advances that could improve life for average citizens across the galaxy? Medical breakthroughs? Energy solutions? Food production? Something practical that would make people welcome humanity rather than fear it? Kane smiled. He had been hoping for an opening like this. We have several things that might qualify. Our quantum medical scanners can detect diseases at the cellular level before symptoms appear. Our fusion reactors are 97% efficient and produce zero waste. Our agricultural systems can grow nutrient-rich food in any environment, including hard vacuum. We have been prepared to share these technologies as part of trade negotiations. Kelleran's leaves vibrated rapidly, creating a sound like applause. Perfect. If you can provide technical specifications for even one of these technologies, I can present it to the Council as evidence of humanity's peaceful intentions. It would shift the narrative from dangerous unknown threat to valuable potential ally. That might be enough to tip the vote toward negotiation. And if I provide this information, what exactly can you deliver? I can deliver enough votes to prevent military action, Kelleran said. I cannot guarantee integration into the Council on your preferred terms, but I can guarantee that no fleet will enter Terran space. From there, we can work toward a more permanent solution. Kane considered the offer. It was risky. Sharing technology before formal agreements were in place could backfire. But the alternative was potential war, and that was far riskier. I need to consult with my government, Kane said. Of course. How long will you need? Give me 2 hours. Kelleran stood, leaves settling into a resting position. You have them. And Ambassador Kane, I want you to know that I respect what humanity has accomplished. Building a civilization capable of standing against the Council in less than 1 generation is remarkable. You should be proud. We are proud, Kane said. But we are also pragmatic. Pride does not stop warships. No, Kelleran agreed. But perhaps cooperation can. The Telkari left, and Kane immediately activated his secure neural link to Earth. He explained the situation to General Cross and the diplomatic team. The debate was brief but intense. Finally, a decision was reached. Provide the fusion reactor specifications, Cross ordered. It is our least sensitive technology, but it will still be revolutionary by their standards. If this Kelleran can prevent a war, the information is worth the risk. Kane spent the next 90 minutes working with Earth's scientific team to prepare a technical package that would be impressive, but not reveal any classified information. The fusion reactor specifications were detailed, enough to prove humanity's capabilities, but vague enough that replication would require significant additional research. When Kelleran returned, exactly 2 hours later, Kane handed over the data crystal. This contains complete specifications for our fusion reactor technology, Kane said. It includes theoretical framework, engineering diagrams, and performance data from operational systems. Any species with basic engineering knowledge should be able to understand and eventually replicate it. Kelleran accepted the crystal carefully, leaves shimmering with light. This will make a difference, Ambassador Kane. I am certain of it. I hope you are right. There is one more thing, Kelleran said. The Prime Arbiter has requested a final address from you before the vote. You will have 5 minutes to speak directly to the Council. Use them wisely. Show them who humanity really is. Show them why we should embrace you rather than fear you. When? 8 hours from now. I suggest you prepare carefully. Everything depends on what you say. Kane did not sleep. He spent the next 8 hours crafting and refining his speech, running scenarios through his augmented mind, analyzing every possible angle. The quantum processors allowed him to simulate thousands of potential responses to his words, to identify the phrases most likely to resonate with different species, to find the perfect balance between strength and humility. But in the end, he discarded all the clever diplomatic language. He decided to speak from the heart. When the summons came, he walked back into the council chamber with a clarity of purpose he had not felt before. The thousands of alien representatives were already in their positions, watching him with their various sensory organs as he took his place on the central platform. The Prime Arbiter's light pulsed steadily. Ambassador Kane, the Council has completed its deliberations. Before we announce our decision, you have been granted 5 minutes to address this body one final time. We suggest you use this opportunity to speak honestly and completely. This may be your last chance to influence the outcome. Kane nodded. He took a breath, centered himself, and began. Honored Arbiter, esteemed members of the Council, I stand before you today representing a species that is very young by your standards. Humanity has been building civilizations for only 10,000 years. We have been using electricity for barely 2 centuries. We achieved spaceflight within living memory. By every measure you use to evaluate species, we should be primitives, barely worthy of notice. He paused, meeting the eyes of various representatives around the chamber. But we are not primitives. We are innovators. We are survivors. We are dreamers who refuse to accept the limitations that others place upon us. And that is what makes us different. Not our technology. Not our defensive systems. Not our quantum consciousness integration. What makes us different is our fundamental belief that nothing is impossible, only difficult. Some of the representatives shifted in their seats. Kane pressed on. You have built a magnificent civilization spanning thousands of worlds. You have achieved peace and prosperity on a scale that humans can barely imagine. You should be proud of what you have created. But I want to ask you a question. When was the last time you were surprised? When was the last time someone showed you something completely new? Something that made you question your assumptions about how the universe works? Silence filled the chamber. Kane continued. Humanity surprises you. We make you uncomfortable because we do not fit your models. We developed technology in ways you did not predict. We achieved capabilities you thought impossible for a species at our stage of development. And now you must decide whether that makes us a threat or an opportunity. He gestured around the vast chamber. I understand why some of you want to destroy us. Fear of the unknown is a powerful motivator. I understand why some of you want to isolate us. Avoiding problems is often easier than solving them. But I am asking you to consider a third option. Embrace us. Welcome us. Work with us. Not because we are perfect, but because we are different. And difference drives innovation. Kane pulled out another data crystal. Ambassador Kelleran has already received specifications for our fusion reactor technology. But I want to give you something else. Something that demonstrates what humanity can contribute to the galactic community. He inserted the crystal into the display interface. Holographic projections filled the air above the chamber floor, showing complex medical diagrams and biological data. This is the complete research database for a treatment that eliminates a category of diseases we call cancer. It is a condition where cells multiply uncontrollably, eventually killing the host organism. We believe this condition exists in some form in most carbon-based life. Our treatment uses quantum-targeted nanomachines to identify and eliminate malignant cells while leaving healthy tissue completely untouched. It has a 100% success rate in human trials. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Kane saw several medical specialists leaning forward with intense interest. I am giving you this research freely. No conditions. No restrictions. Because that is what partners do. They share knowledge that benefits everyone. We could have kept this secret, used it as leverage. But we chose not to, because we want you to see us as we truly are. We are not conquerors seeking to dominate the galaxy. We are explorers seeking to understand it. We are healers seeking to improve it. We are builders seeking to contribute to it. He deactivated the display and stood tall, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. You have a choice to make today. You can choose fear and violence. You can send your fleet to Terran space and test our defenses. Some of you will die. Some of us will die. The galaxy will be diminished. Or you can choose hope and cooperation. You can welcome humanity into the galactic community as equals, as partners, as fellow travelers in the grand adventure of understanding the universe. Kane looked directly at the Prime Arbiter. I cannot promise that integrating humanity will be easy. We are stubborn. We are independent. We will challenge your assumptions and question your traditions. But I can promise that we will make the galaxy more interesting. We will push boundaries you thought were fixed. We will discover things you thought were undiscoverable. And we will do it all as your friends and allies, if you give us that chance. He fell silent. His 5 minutes nearly expired. The chamber was absolutely quiet. I have said what I came to say. The decision is yours. Choose wisely. Choose the future you want to see. And know that whatever you decide, humanity will endure. We always have. We always will. Kane stepped back, signaling he was finished. The prime arbiter pulsed through several colors before settling on a brilliant white. The Council has heard your words, Ambassador Kane. We will now proceed to vote. The decision requires a 2/3 majority. All representatives, cast your votes now. The chamber filled with light as thousands of aliens activated their voting interfaces. Kane could not see the individual votes, but holographic displays showed running totals that were visible only to the arbiter and the senior council members. The process took 10 minutes. 10 minutes during which Kane stood motionless, his augmented mind tracking every minute detail of the chamber, looking for clues about how the vote was going. Finally, the voting interfaces deactivated. The prime arbiter's light dimmed to a soft amber. The vote is complete. The results are as follows: 347 votes for immediate military action, 291 votes for establishing a restricted zone, 416 votes for negotiated integration into the galactic community. Kane felt his knees weaken with relief, but he maintained his composure. The arbiter continued. By majority vote, the Council has decided to pursue diplomatic negotiations with humanity for formal integration as a sovereign member species. Ambassador Kane, we offer you preliminary status as a recognized civilization with full rights under galactic law, pending the completion of formal treaties and agreements. Cheers erupted from some sections of the chamber. Others sat in stony silence. The Dravix commander stormed out through a dimensional portal, clearly furious. But Elder Vorn's constellation body sparkled with what Kane interpreted as approval. There are conditions, the arbiter said, and the chamber quieted again. Humanity must agree to non-aggression treaties with all Council member species. You must participate in trade according to established protocols. You must allow limited diplomatic access to your space, though we acknowledge your right to maintain security around sensitive installations. And you must continue to share beneficial technologies as a sign of good faith. Those terms are acceptable, Kane said, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside him. On behalf of Earth and humanity, I accept preliminary member status and agree to negotiate the formal treaties in good faith. Ambassador Kelrin stood, leaves chiming loudly. I move that we establish a joint committee to handle the treaty negotiations, with representatives from humanity, the founding species, and neutral observers. This is too important to rush. Agreed, the arbiter said. The motion is approved. Ambassador Kane, you will work with this committee over the coming months to establish the framework for humanity's integration. We anticipate this will be a complex process. We are prepared for complexity, Kane replied. The arbiter's light pulsed warmly. Then let it be recorded that on this day, the Galactic Council welcomed its youngest and perhaps most remarkable member species. May this partnership bring prosperity to all. The chamber erupted in sound as representatives began talking amongst themselves, some excited, some worried, all aware that they had just witnessed a historic moment. Kane activated his neural link to Earth. General Cross, we have a deal. Military action has been averted. Humanity is now a recognized member of the galactic community. Understood. Congratulations, David. You just changed the course of human history. We all did, Kane replied. This was a team effort. But as the celebration continued around him, Kane felt a weight settle on his shoulders. This was not an ending. It was a beginning. The real work of integration would take years. There would be challenges, conflicts, misunderstandings. Some species would never fully accept humanity. Some humans would resist joining the galactic community, but they had taken the first step. They had proven that humanity could stand as equals among the stars. Everything else would follow from that fundamental truth. 3 months passed. Kane remained at the Nexus as the chief human negotiator, working with the Joint Committee to hammer out the details of Earth's integration into the galactic community. The process was exhausting, frustrating, and occasionally infuriating. But it was also exhilarating. Every day brought new challenges. Trade agreements had to be structured to protect human industries while allowing access to galactic markets. Territorial boundaries had to be precisely defined. Technology sharing protocols had to balance openness with security. Cultural exchange programs had to be designed that respected both human and alien traditions. Through it all, Kane learned that the galaxy was far more complex than he had imagined. The Council was not a monolithic entity, but a constantly shifting coalition of interests, alliances, and rivalries. Some species genuinely welcomed humanity. Others remained suspicious. A few actively worked to undermine the integration process. The Draviks were the most problematic. Their military commander, whose name Kane learned was General Cross, refused to accept the Council's decision. He lobbied constantly for additional restrictions on human activity, argued that Earth should not be granted full membership rights, and spread rumors that humanity was secretly preparing for war. Kane dealt with these challenges through a combination of diplomacy, strategic technology releases, and carefully cultivated alliances. Ambassador Kelrin became a valuable friend, introducing Kane to other moderate voices in the Council who supported peaceful integration. Elder Vorn provided wisdom and historical perspective, helping Kane navigate the complex politics of ancient civilizations. But the most surprising ally came from an unexpected source that happened during a negotiating session, focused on military protocols. The discussion had become heated, with several species demanding that humanity dismantle its defensive grid as a condition of membership. Kane was preparing to reject this demand when a new voice entered the debate. "The demand is unreasonable," said General Cross. The chamber fell silent. Everyone turned to stare at the Dravik's commander. Cross stood, his reptilian features unreadable. "I have spent the past 3 months studying human defensive capabilities," Cross continued. "I have analyzed the captured Council vessels. I have reviewed the technical data humanity has shared, and I have reached a conclusion that surprises even me." He turned to face Kane directly. "Humanity's defensive grid is not a threat to the Council. It is an asset. The technology is purely defensive. It cannot be used for offensive operations without fundamental redesign. And more importantly, if humanity had wanted to harm the Council, they could have destroyed our ships rather than capturing them. They could have refused negotiation entirely. They could have struck at our territory first. But they chose restraint. They chose diplomacy. That speaks to their character more than any treaty we could write." Cross paused, and Kane saw something in the alien's eyes that might have been respect. "I still believe humanity is dangerous. But I now believe they are dangerous in the way that all strong allies are dangerous. Powerful enough to be valuable. Wise enough to be trusted. I withdraw my objections to their membership and recommend we proceed with integration under the proposed terms." The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Kane stood carefully and bowed to Cross. "Thank you, General. Your words mean more than you know." Cross nodded once and sat down. The negotiation continued, but the dynamics had shifted. Within hours, the remaining obstacles were resolved. Within days, the formal treaty was drafted. Within weeks, it was signed by representatives of Earth and the Council. Humanity was officially a member of the galactic community. Kane stood in the observation deck of the Nexus, looking out at the stars. Tomorrow, he would return to Earth as a hero. He would brief the government, speak to the press, and begin the process of preparing humanity for full integration into galactic civilization. But tonight, he just wanted to absorb what had happened. "Impressive view," said a voice behind him. Kane turned to find Elder Vorn floating nearby, the ancient being's constellation body glowing softly in the darkness. "It never gets old," Kane agreed. "I wanted to speak with you before you leave," Vorn said. to offer some perspective you may find useful. I am listening. Elder, you have achieved something remarkable, Ambassador Kane. In less than 4 months, you brought humanity from unknown species to council member. You negotiated treaties that preserve your sovereignty while integrating you into galactic society. You made allies out of potential enemies. By any measure, you have succeeded beyond what anyone thought possible. Thank you. But I sense you have a warning to deliver as well. Vorn's stars sparkled with what might have been amusement. You read subtext well. Yes, I have a warning. Success brings its own challenges. Humanity is now part of something much larger than itself. You will face pressures to conform, to adopt galactic norms, to become more like the other species. You must resist this pressure. How do we do that without isolating ourselves again? By remembering what makes you valuable, Vorn said. The Council needs species like humanity. Species that challenge assumptions. Species that innovate rather than iterate. Species that refuse to accept limitations. If you become just another member species, indistinguishable from the hundreds of others, you will have won nothing of value. You must remain uniquely human, even as you integrate into the galactic community. Kane nodded slowly. That will be difficult. There will be those on Earth who want to abandon our human identity in favor of becoming galactic citizens. And there will be those who reject integration entirely, who want to return to isolation. Then your true work is just beginning, Vorn said. You must find the balance. Stay human while becoming galactic. Maintain your identity while embracing new relationships. It is the hardest path, but it is the only path worth walking. How long have you been doing this, Elder Vorn? How long have you been guiding young species through these challenges? 9,000 years, Vorn replied. And every time it is different. Every species faces unique challenges. Humanity's challenge will be managing your own success. You advanced so quickly that you have not had time to develop the cultural maturity that usually comes with technological sophistication. You have the tools of an ancient civilization, but the mindset of an adolescent species. That combination is both your greatest strength and your greatest vulnerability. Do you think we will succeed? Vorn's constellation shifted, forming patterns Kane could not read. I think you have a chance. A better chance than most. You have shown wisdom in crisis. You have shown restraint when you had the power to destroy. You have shown generosity when you could have hoarded your knowledge. These are good signs. But the future is unwritten. You will face tests you cannot yet imagine. How you respond to those tests will determine whether humanity becomes a great civilization or merely a footnote in galactic history. Kane looked back out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth hung in space, a small blue world preparing to take its place among thousands of others. 8 billion people were depending on him and the others who would lead humanity through this transition. I hope we are ready, Kane said quietly. No one is ever ready, Vorn replied. But the best species learn quickly. And humans, for all your flaws, are very good at learning. The elder drifted away, leaving Kane alone with his thoughts. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. The years of preparation. The development of quantum consciousness integration. The careful observation of galactic civilization. The risky decision to confront the Council directly. The negotiations. The compromises. The victories. It had all led to this moment. Standing at the threshold of a new era for humanity. An era where humans would walk among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals. As partners. As contributors to something larger than themselves. Kane activated his neural link one more time. General Cross, final report. Integration treaty is signed. All objectives achieved. Humanity is now an official member of the Galactic Council with full sovereignty rights. The warning we gave has become our foundation. We told them to step into Terran space and vanish forever. They tested us. We proved ourselves. And now they respect us. Acknowledged, Cross replied. Welcome home, Ambassador. Earth is ready to celebrate. Tell them to save some celebration, Kane said. This is just the beginning. The real work starts now. He took one last look at the stars before turning toward the transport bay. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new discoveries. But tonight, humanity could celebrate. They had earned it. The galaxy had been warned. And the galaxy had listened. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.